Okay, folks, let's react. Let's react to this is Scott Abel Coaching, who's going to talk about carbs do not make you fat. If you've seen my previous videos, I went over some studies to really prove this. Scott's going to talk about the same thing. Let's see what he has to say. I believe he's retired now. Scott, if you see this, enjoy retirement, man. I wish I was retired. I wish I was retired. Let's go.
Today with a little bit of a rant and a rave about something I talked about earlier. I want to get into on a deeper level, and it's this comment from people: I wish I could eat carbs. Let's stop the effing nonsense, but let's start this video with great big headline: we eat carbs. So one of the frustrating things we always encounter in the Abel camp when people take notice of our physiques or our leanness, or my clients who have lost over 100 pounds and kept it off, people will genuinely inquire, how did you lose the weight? Or how do you stay lean? Or how do you look that way? And when myself or my clients or Andy respond, we eat a high carb diet, somehow instead of taking that answer and learning from it, people with the North American diet mentality twist this in their head and come out with what we call a confirmation bias, where they end up saying something as ridiculous as, I wish I could eat carbs. Somehow they translate the answer that they're looking for weight loss and sustainable weight control and leanness and physique transformation. The answer, we eat a high carb diet, somehow isn't good enough as an answer, and because of the North American diet mentality and misinformation and outright low carb lies out there, they twist the information in their mind. I wish I could eat carbs. So we're going to look at some research here, specifically 3 elements of research that tell a story of how people...
Let me say this as well. People don't know what they're talking about when it comes to carbs either. They say, I wish I could eat carbs, or because when I eat carbs, I get fat. But if you ask them, what were you eating in your daily diet, there's 30-40% of the calories are coming from fat. So they weren't eating a high carb diet, they were eating a high carb, high fat diet, a diet that was high in both. And they'll say things like, oh, I was eating cookies and donuts and stuff. Foods that have just as much calories from fat as they do in carbs. And I think carbs make me fat. Oh, God. It's the fat that you're eating. The fat you're eating was stored as body fat. A fat biopsy will prove this to you. Get a fat biopsy done, have them analyze it, and they'll show that almost all that fat, about 99% of it, is dietary fat. It's not fat that has been converted from carbohydrate, because they look very different. You can tell where it came from. Okay, let's move on.
actually gain weight and gain fat and get fatter, and what kind of diet strategy human beings had to eat in order to evolve and survive and to become the reigning species on the planet. And we're going to use this in the context of, I wish I could eat carbs. So we're going to look at 3 studies. We're going to look at a clinical study of overfeeding, so we can look at just what kind of food leads to people storing more fat. We're going to look at cultural study that shows when people change their diet, what kind of food leads to people storing more fat. And then, as I said, we're going to look at human evolution itself to see what kind of diet it was likely we engaged with to survive and grow our brains as a human species. So I'm going to start with this study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2001. The study is de novo lipogenesis during controlled overfeeding with sucrose or glucose in lean and obese women. So people who are more prone to putting on weight to begin with, females, and de novo lipogenesis just means newly formed fat. That's all you need to know about that. So in this study, what they did is they overfed women, both obese and lean women, with sugar, simple sugars, sugar and glucose, and yet the fat that the women stored was from from the fat that they ate and not from these carbs. And that was with overfeeding, with simple sugars, sugar and glucose in the overfed state. So their conclusion was that sugar doesn't contribute a whole lot to fat storage. And in fact, I'm going to read you this conclusion here. And I quote, de novo lipogenesis increases after overfeeding with glucose and sucrose to the same extent in lean and obese women, but does not contribute greatly to total fat balance. So here we have overfeeding, which leads to weight gain in and of itself. If you take in more calories than you need, then you're going to gain weight. But the level and percentage of weight gain that people hold on to was actually from the fat that they eat. So the fat that you eat becomes the fat that you wear. So imagine if overfeeding with simple sugars was instead substituted with eating healthy, whole food, high carb diets with starches, grains, legumes, beans, etc. So there's one conclusion right there that sort of cancels the I wish I could eat carbs conclusion, because here we overfed women with simple carbs, and the result was the weight that was gained in an overfeeding metabolic state was actually from the fat that they ate. So similarly, now we'll switch gears, and I've talked about
In real world settings, you're not turning carbohydrate into fat. That's not where your fat came from. Your fat came from eating fat. Any fat in a caloric surplus is stored directly from dietary fat straight into your fat cells. Carbohydrates, on the other hand, you've got a couple of buffers. You have to fill up all your glycogen. That's going to take a while. Glycogen in your muscle and liver, and once that's tapped out, you still don't go into de novo lipogenesis, converting carbs into fat. At that point, then your body just burns more and more carbohydrate. It increases carb oxidation, and this is to a massive degree. Like, you wouldn't believe how much your body will go out of its way to stop converting carbs into fat. It will burn. I saw one study where it took about an excess of 2,800 calories above full glycogen replenishment before de novo lipogenesis was switched on. And these are in unreal, unlikely scenarios. You won't eat like this. You couldn't possibly eat enough potatoes or bread or rice to get to this level. Okay, so which is why that I say that um, a fat biopsy, if you got fat sucked out of your gut and analysed, it will show that 98 to 99% of that came from dietary fat, with 1 to 2% at best is converted carbohydrate to fat. Game over. That's it. It's all you need to know. The fat you eat becomes the fat you wear. Anyway, I think we'll leave it for there. But this was the first reaction video. I enjoyed doing this. I think we'll do this again. If you have ideas for something you want me to react to, let me know and I will react to it. Positive or negative. Positive or negative. Whoa. Okay, folks. I'm going to go before I get loopy. I'm starting to get loopy. Bye bye. See you later.